We are very forward-thinking, I think, when we come to equal rights.
We are, of course, one of the Nordic countries, and the Nordic countries have been considered very advanced in equal rights.
Being a woman in the arts and in music, it's great to be growing up in an environment where I feel like my potential are seen, and I'm given the same opportunities as boys are.
Women in Iceland decided to take a day off, and it became world known because they proved when they walked out from institutions and everywhere, from the homes even, that women are pillars of society as well as men. It's a very sad thing that somehow society has managed to pay men better than women. And we know that it is done by labeling the work of men differently from the work of women. And that is now what women are trying to correct by working out again.
There's a lot of things that have changed, probably.
It's first and foremost the emancipation of women. There were only 2-3 women in parliament for over 70 years. But now the miracle is that half of the members of parliament are women today.
And that is remarkable. It is not considered totally shocking that a woman could be president or something like that. Is, you know,
natural.
It is so empowering.
What I've been trying to say to women is get educated if you possibly can.
Yes, definitely. And not to be afraid of speaking up and talking about the issue and trying to be educated and having a discussion with other women, trying to figure out like how you can better your community and your society.
Because through reading they get information, and through information they learn how to handle things in their societies.
I feel very fortunate growing up here and being a woman from Iceland and having these opportunities.
There is no doubt that Iceland can be a role model for equal rights in the world.
The World Economic Forum published a report recently that says the United States finishes far from the top of the list when it comes to gender equality. According to the report, women fared best in Iceland, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. American women finished 23rd on the list of 136 countries. For more perspective, earlier I spoke with Kathleen Gerson. She's a sociology professor at New York University and the author of a book about gender and family titled The Unfinished Revolution. So what is it about the Scandinavian model? I mean, when I rattled off that list of top 4, Iceland, Finland, Norway, Sweden, what's working there? What can we learn from that?
I think that the Nordic model, as it's called, has figured out that there are 2 important ingredients to creating gender equality, which, by the way, actually produces greater economic stability and greater overall social health. And those 2 ingredients are, on the one hand, notions of equal opportunity in the economy and at work, and which Americans would find very little fault with. But the other side of that equation is they've also supported notions of family support policies, that they want all their families to be healthy, to be economically secure, and to have as many earners as possible and as many caretakers as possible. And so that means not only that they've incorporated women into the workforce, they've incorporated men into the home. They have very strong policies that bring men in as fathers. And finally, they've accepted and in fact embraced the notion that families are part of larger communities, and good child care makes it possible for women and men to gain more equality in their lives.
In educational attainment, we are tied for first with about 24 other countries. Exactly. But when it comes to health and survival, the specific measure of healthy life expectancy, we're 53rd.
Right.
And that's much lower than one would think living in the U.S.
It's very, very counterintuitive, since we talk all the time about our high life expectancies, especially for women. But I think that the lesson here is we are quite obviously one of the few, the only industrial, wealthy country in the world that doesn't have a national health system. And I think that is showing up in these statistics, that we like to think of ourselves as being one of the healthiest countries on earth. But in fact, when you put it all together, people at the top may be doing well, but we're not as a country doing that well compared to other societies.
Another one of the categories that they measure is economic participation and opportunity. We ranked 6th overall because we do have leadership positions that are filled by women, but we ranked 67th when it came to wage inequality. And that's a conversation that's been happening in the U.S. for a long time.
And there was a moment in time when we focused on affirmative action, getting women into the workplace, but we didn't focus as much on what happened to them once they got there. So yes, we've had some examples of women breaking through the glass ceiling, but in many, even the most highly paid professions, there's been a resegregation so that even in those professions, men tend to be doing better than women in the more highly paid positions.
All right, Kathleen Gerson from NYU, thanks so much.
Why do Saudi women need permission from male guardians for life choices? Will new reforms end this? In a nation where women are not allowed to drive, where women need the consent of male relatives for many of the most important life choices. Today, every Saudi woman is required to have a male guardian, such as a husband, father, brother, or even a son. They have the legal authority to make vital life decisions on her behalf, such as studying abroad on a government scholarship, getting married, even leaving jail. This begs the question of, what rights do women in Saudi Arabia really have?
Well, I've spent years covering the Middle East and the Gulf region, and the issue of women's rights in Saudi Arabia often comes up. The kingdom is an absolute monarchy ruled by the Al Saud family. Now, they govern according to a strict interpretation of Sunni Islam. Women need the permission of a male guardian to travel to work, to attend higher education, or to marry. But Saudi Arabia does have a very young population. The median age there, just 26. Many that I've spoken to say that the role of women in the country is evolving. Now, 2015 marked the first year that Saudi women were allowed to campaign for public office and to register to vote at the municipal level. And that came 2 years after the former King Abdullah decreed that women must make up at least 20% of the Shura Council. Now, that is an appointed body that drafts laws and advises the king on major issues. More Saudi women are also joining the workforce. Only about 19% of them currently perform paid work, but the Saudi government says their numbers have risen considerably from 23,000 in 2004 to over 400,000 in 2014. Now, women are still required to cover their hair and wear long clothing in public, but in many malls and hotels these days, women are seen without headscarves. Perhaps the most visible sign of women's rights in Saudi, or not as the case may be, is that they are not allowed to drive. Well, the women that I've met there tell me they are often frustrated by the West's focus on this topic, and they feel it ignores the other positive steps they say have been made. But proponents for change say allowing women to drive would be a big step towards opening other doors of opportunity.